Hello, today I'm going to show you time-lapse pictures of coral growth in my SPS dominant redsea reefer 250. Hello and welcome back to Amrazul TV. This is probably one of my favorite videos that I put out all year. It's my 1 year growth video where I stitch together all the SPS pictures that I've taken over the past year every month, and I put them together as a kind of a slideshow to get a sense of how fast my corals have been growing. As you know, my tank just turned 5 last weekend, and I did do several other coral growth videos in the first installation of my tank. So what you're looking at here is the original aquascape, the OG tank, where you know, I had the SPS dominant tank, and you know, now that I look at it, it looks beautiful. But for some reason, I kind of got bored of that look at around like 3 years, about almost 4 years in. And I decided to kind of re-aquascape the tank and start with 1-inch frags again. The goal was to jam pack as many SPS that I can in this 250 liter system, and really like go all out to get the best colors and the best growth out of my frags. So this is the reloaded version of my 1 year coral growth video. So we're gonna look at all the corals that started as 1-inch frags last summer, and see how well they did over the past year. And in some cases, I'm gonna actually compare the growth that I got this past year, arguably once I had, like, you know, 4 or 5 years of experience of reefing under my belt, to the first SPS coral growth videos that I shot, and where I was still kind of a rookie. I still feel like a rookie. So let's get started. I've organized the corals from fastest growing to slowest growing, and throughout the videos I'm going to give you notes on par. So the first coral I want to show you is the bubblegum digi. It's a Montipora, and this thing has been growing amazing for me. It's sitting at around 260 par level, and what's so impressive about this is, as you're looking at the growth of this Montipora, is that I've been consistently fragging it. So this colony, I would say, would have easily been double the size if I wasn't fragging it. I literally like kind of frag a good like 1 to 2 inch branch like every 3 weeks or so. So definitely a super fast grower and kind of great colors, red with kind of purplish undertones and the green tips. Classic coral that I think everybody should have in their SPS collection. The next coral is smooth-skinned Acropora. This is WWC's little red Ferrari, and it's getting about 290 par. Very, very lovely coral. It grows very fast. It's got like a purplish, pinkish skin with neon tips. It's let's say it's, you know, kind of similar to Pacman, which you'll see in a little bit, but definitely the purples are a little bit deeper, and the tips are their fluorescence is just a bit different than the Pacman. It's a smooth-skinned Acropora, so do you know, if you're interested in this, do take your time and be gentle while you're acclimating it and doing a dip. But certainly it's been growing really well for me, and I have actually managed to get several frags out of this colony already. Next up is green slimer. So I had this in the first version of my tank. This is what it looked like before the re-aquascape, and I cut about, you know, 1-inch frag when I did the aquascape reloaded video, and it's been sitting at around 310 par. It did move a little bit early on in the rebuild of the tank, but this thing has been growing like a rock star. It's a little bit hard to appreciate the vertical growth from the top-down video, but this thing is easily maybe you know, like 6 inches tall. So lovely growth, lovely color. You know, for a very, very inexpensive frag, I think the green slimer is a must-have in any SPS collection. It really is kind of unique, and the staghorn look is just kind of lovely. That, you know, tall, thick green branch sticking out of the tank is super. Next up, we have probably one of my favorite corals in the tank right now. It's PC Rainbow. It's sitting in the middle of my tank at around 290 par. Really highly recommend this frag, guys, if you could manage to get your hands on it. And you know, they're not super expensive, 50 bucks, 60 bucks a frag, but the colors on it are simply amazing. When I was ramping up the light, this had like a very greenish, goldenish, green goldish kind of body. But as I ramped up my radions, I did start to see the red polyps, the red tip. Sorry, the red. What's that proper terminology? The red branches, and it's got these lovely like pale tips, and it does grow super well for me. So it's definitely one of the fastest growing acroporas in my tank. Next up is that's Cornbread's golden jaw dropper. I got this as a 1-inch frag, and it was getting about 310 par. I was, you know, a little bit underwhelmed of the color. It definitely grows super fast. I was underwhelmed with the color. It was like green for a very long time, but as it got larger and as I was ramping up my lights, it did start to get this orangey golden type flesh. And the lovely little yellow fluorescent tips are they look pretty cool. It's definitely unique in terms of kind of shape and color. So definitely recommended. Although if I had to pick one, PC Rainbow and golden jaw dropper, my money is on the PC Rainbow. Okay, next up we have you know, did I say the PC Rainbow is one of my favorite corals? Okay, maybe I take that back. The Hawkins Echinata. You know, what can I say? I'm an acroholic. But the Hawkins Echinata is getting 290 par. It is on the left side of my tank, and it has these really kind of what I feel unique kind of bluish turquoise color. Nothing else, well, that I've seen anyway, has that hue. And it is also another smooth skin acropora, so do be careful with it. And it does grow moderately fast for me. So, you know, certainly not like the fastest coral, but definitely it is one of the faster ones. I did manage to cut a couple of frags of it. You know, it's difficult to frag because of the very thin branches, but lovely coral nevertheless. Okay, Bonsai valida grows really well for me. So this is the original colony from the first version of my tank. I did cut like a 1-inch frag, and I had mounted it really like on the sand bed, right? Not directly, but just like a few inches off the sand bed. It's getting about 215, and surprisingly it's actually been doing really well at that lower light conditions. It's been growing really quickly, and the colors are still kind of retained. So it's purplish, you know, purplish body and branches with fluorescent green tips, and you get a little bit of white at the base of the branches as it kind of grows out. So this colony is for sure you'll see at the end I'm comparing the growth rates of my 1-inch frag in the new system relative to the 1-inch frag in the first like year of the tank 5 years ago. And so this is the 1 year version 1 year growth, and this is the 2 year the version 2 1 year growth. And you could see that this coral has been doing so much better in the new version of my tank, the version 2 of the tank, than it did in the first year. So I'm doing something right. Next up is Jason Fox TNT and Acropora. I actually had a massive colony of this, and out of nowhere it started RTNing. I did manage to kind of keep one tiny little frag. Almost everything else that I fragged just died right away, but this tiny little frag has managed to grow really well. It's getting around 215 par on the side of the tank, and it's been growing well. So I expect this to kind of be a mini colony in no time. Next up is the Reef Raft Pot of Gold Milli. It is getting 240 par. This colony was really you know, boring for, I would say, 6 months. It was you know, just mostly, you know, green and, you know, nothing special. It took its time kind of encrusting, But around like December, January, it started kind of to improve in color and increase in pace. So you see here that we're getting kind of more golden, and then over the past couple of months, it really is, it lives up to its kind of golden name, and you see the golden branches and the lovely white tips, and it's looking more like a sunset milli, as this is supposed to be. Okay, next up is a coral that I've been trying to get a hold of, and I've successfully been unable to grow for several attempts now, but it's the classic pink lemonade. I got this as a tiny little frag. It is sitting in about 280 par, and I've had this before and I've never had success with them. I've tried it twice before, but for some reason this time it's been growing for me, and it's, I would say it's a medium growth type of coral. But it does have that lovely kind of yellowish greenish body with the pink polyp, so it is a striking coral, and the bigger it gets, the more striking that it looks. So definitely can't wait for it to kind of develop into a proper kind of mini colony and grow upwards as it should. Next up is the Jason Fox Flame. I have this sitting on my sand bed, getting around 250 par. Very lovely coral with pink purplish body and those kind of classic neon yellow tips. I like this coral so much that I took a big chunk out of this colony in the bottom here, and I started another colony somewhere else in my aquascape. It's a fairly kind of unique combination of colors, and its growth form is also pretty cool. So maybe not like a must-have, but certainly a very lovely coral, and if you get a chance in getting a frag, I would say go for it. All right, next up is another classic, the calitort. I had a massive colony of this in the first version of my aquascape. Again, I snipped a little piece, a 1-inch frag, and I introduced that into the rebuild because you always have to have a calitort or a plutort. This is getting around, let's see, 280 par. And it's it grows just like my experience with this in version 1, or kind of replicating in version 2, is it took a really long time to kind of encrust, and then it just kind of exploded in growth. So if you look back at my previous videos, this thing looked like it grew like in height, but it didn't encrust, and then all of a sudden at around, I think, year 2.5, it started kind of going nuts, and I'm already seeing signs of this. Like if you can see the last few pictures, it's really putting on some size and girth. Okay, next up is the Mr. Pacman. So this is what my original Pacman colony looked like. This thing was like, I kid you not, like 12 inches across, right? It was a massive colony, grows super well for me on the sand bed. So I took a couple of tiny frags and I put it in the sand bed, and it's been growing. Actually, it's been growing slower than I expected it to grow. So right now it's actually getting 280 par. It's been growing, you can see from the pictures that it is kind of putting on some size. Nowhere near the massive colony that I had that around 4 years in, but definitely I feel like it's due for like a growth spurt soon. And once the Pacman takes off, it really like goes exponential and grows really well. So but it is kind of funny seeing it this tiny when I'm used to seeing like this massive colony all the time. Okay, next up, again, I keep saying this, one of my favorite, but it is really a stunning coral. This is reef raft Marvin the Martian. It's got like, if the polyps are retracted, it's got these like white body with blue tips. But actually, when the coral is healthy and happy, all you see is these lovely green fluorescent polyps that is just like covering the corals and waving from side to side. It looks super fuzzy and furry, and it's like an acropora that thinks it's a Montipora. It's got that lovely kind of polyp extension all the time. It is not, you know, it's not the fastest grower, it's not the slowest grower either. So you know, it's been slowly gaining in size. And you know, if you looking at these pictures, I actually haven't like fragged it that often. Okay, next up is Reef Raft Rainbow Loom. This is getting around 260 par in the side of the tank. Kind of classic green, fluorescent green flesh with these purple tips. Very, very stunning coral, and it is actually a fairly fast growing coral for me. It is. I put it in a spot where it's near and a bit higher than my Miyagi Tort. So I'm constantly having to kind of prune the Miyagi Tort to make sure that it doesn't kind of encroach on Rainbow Loom. But so far, I really like the combination of colors of just seeing the green and the blue and the purple and the green. It's got a very nice contrast. Okay, next up is the strawberry shortcake. Well, this one moved a little bit. I initially had it in one spot. It lost a lot of color, so I moved it down to the sand bed, and then it didn't look that much better. And then eventually I put it in that one spot up top where we call the black hole of Acropora death. Because nothing before the strawberry shortcake actually survived in that spot, but miraculously the strawberry shortcake has been thriving and doing really well there. So that spot is getting around 260 par, and you know, it's been growing slow for me, but it is growing, and it has retained its lovely coloration, that fluorescent green with the hot pink tips. Can't wait to see what it does when it gets into a mini colony stage. Okay, next up. Okay, now this is really my favorite. The Orange Passion, Reef Raft Orange Passion. I got this as a tiny and super expensive frag. I had a massive colony of these guys. I was like literally giving away frags for free, but for some reason a lot of the like Orange Passion colonies in my local roofing communities just went belly up, and the few people that still have it, they really like know how to milk it in terms of selling the frag. So I got this tiny super expensive frag. It's been growing really well. The colors, I mean, what can you say, right? Like blue tips, green base, those orange polyps, it looks great. Interestingly enough, in the original version of my tank, that 1 year growth of my Orange Passion in the first year of my tank actually grew a lot bigger, but that's because I think I got a much larger frag to start with. So not everything is about kind of I mean, obviously colony, the parameters are important, but also if you start with a larger frag, you're going to end up with a bigger colony sooner. Next up is my Walt Disney. So far it's been kind of disappointing, so you know, I'm not gonna lie, spent a lot of money on this, but right now it's not kind of showing the amazing colors that you kind of expect or you see on hopefully not too photoshopped pictures. But it has been growing really well. It's getting around 270 par, so it's encrusting, and it's been added recently in the tank, so I'm kind of giving it a little bit of a break before I do something drastic like move it. Okay, next up is Major Laser. Lovely coral, very interesting shape. I believe the name for this is serum sota is the species name, Acropora serum sota. Or ceramentosa. I'm probably butchering the name, but very lovely colony, mini colony. It is very slow growing, so all of these pictures is just, you know, tiny little incremental growth every month. I haven't been fragging it. It's been kind of on the slow side of things. So sometimes I consider moving it up, but the colors are like really spectacular. It is getting to 80 par, so it's not that bad, but yeah, it's definitely on the slow side of things. And then finally, the slowest frag in my tank right now is the Jason Fox Jolt. So this was added as a 1-inch frag in about a year ago. It's sitting at around 270 par, and it's just, you know, it's like it's molasses. It is encrusting. So I would say most, like this past year, has just been spent encrusting, and like slowly encrusting at that. There's been no new branches, no vertical growth whatsoever. Although, you know, just the last month or so, I am seeing like the beginning of buds around the frag plug. So I'm hoping that we're gonna start seeing new branches go up. But so far it's been kind of growing super slow for me. Actually, you know, if you have, Jason, if you have a Jolt in your tank, do let me know if it grows fast for you and what kind of par it's sitting at. But that's pretty much it. So I would say overall, just kind of looking at how big some of my colonies got this year, relative to the, you know, first year of the tank, I think I'm doing better this year. I'm certainly seeing, you know, in the first year I was very frustrated with colors. You know, I had up and down. I had issues with nutrients. I had issues with algae. But for the past, you know, for the past year, you know, no serious algae issues. Yes, I've, you know, had some issues with fluctuating parameters. And you know, I did replace the lights, and it took me a while to ramp them up. But all things considered, I would say that the growth that I'm seeing this year was so much better than the growth that I got in the first year when I set up the tank. So that's it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you want to learn more about the husbandry and the kind of equipment and my water parameters, do check out that 5-year video. And if you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. It really does help. And thank you so much, and I'll see you around. Have a good one.